Tommy came to me with a short film idea, and I worked on a short animatic. It wasn't even the entire short film idea, it was just the first opening scene. There was just something about the story and the way the music came together and everything that a lot of people watching it had a reaction, like a strong reaction. And I kind of knew right then and there that there was something to the story. It eventually became a longer project. Tommy threw down a rough draft of the script. He was very focused and driven on getting the story done within a year. So I had done about 6 drafts in that time, a period of time that year, and passed it off to Tommy and did a couple more rewrites, a couple more revisions, and then probably I'd say about 6 months later, we all got back together for casting and began to work on the film as it is today. Well, I guess it all started for me with the Ramayana, really. Because the Ramayana is sort of... This is the Ramayana almost in reverse, or flipped on its head. Sita is saving herself, and Rama is kind of nowhere to be found. However, the story in the arc is somewhat similar. That's where it started for me, at least, especially since the name Sita had been tossed around at that point. And pretty much decided on. That's where I went immediately. In the story, for us, coming up with the impetus of the prophecy was the main goal at the beginning. And once the god and Sita and their relationship and what led to the separation of the two tribes was in place and established, we could then begin to focus on these people that come generations later and how all this stuff that happened in the past then affects these people that we're seeing today. You know, we get to see where these people live and how they exist and what their life is like on a daily basis before anything changes and before our story takes place. So we're introduced and we're familiar and we understand that these are, you know, warrior people who are hidden away. We don't know why, we don't know where, we don't know when, etc., etc. But we have an understanding now of the basic rule of this movie world. We understand, okay, this is what things are like on a normal day. And then at the end of the first act, of course, that is all stripped away. And the world that exists on a normal day-to-day basis is broken and shattered. So this leaves the hero, or heroes, in a brave new world, if you will. And we then explore this brave new world together, the audience and the characters. So from the end of the first act to the end of the second act is an adventure for everybody. It's an adventure for the characters, it's an adventure for the viewer. So then the third act begins. The heroes crippled must in some way overcome this obstacle, rebuild themselves better than before, and triumph. And of course, as we all know, at the end of the third act, final confrontation, hero is victorious, or in some way conclusion is brought about and we have resolution of some kind. This is really a character piece. For a large part of the writing and the creating of it, and this is going to sound really douchebaggy and all artsy, but I would really just let the characters speak for themselves and live their lives. And, you know, a lot of great stuff came out of that. And like the relationship between Lakshmi and Vish, it was never planned, it was never intended. I hate love stories. I hate when it gets sentimental and doesn't need to. However, the more I wrote those characters, the more wrong I felt not having them be together. So the most important part of the process for me, is, especially on this movie, but I think in most movies, should be the character and the character arc, because that's what's missing from so many major motion pictures these days. Is it's just about the big bang boom and the you know, the explosions and the sexy girls and whatever. It's not about character. And even when there is decent story or good story, the characters themselves can fall flat in a good story if they're not handled well. And that's why the main focus of this has always been, for me, the character's journey and not the journey of the overall story. Because if the character goes through something and you make that character relatable and believable, then the audience goes through it. And that's the type of magic that movies have over any other medium, really. I mean, that childlike wonder can be brought back in anybody if you connect with them right.
A restless soul must fulfill a duty to find peace. It is this duty that I fear.